Steelers Nation, stop everything you're doing right now because what I'm about to tell you could change the entire trajectory of this franchise for the next 5 years. We've got breaking developments on Alex Highsmith's future. Joey Porter Jr.'s contract situation just took a dramatic turn. And Tom Brady just said something about our quarterback that should make every single person wearing black and gold stand up and take notice. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because this news is moving fast and you need to stay locked in with us for every single update as this story unfolds. Trust me, you're going to want to be here for what's coming next. Let's dive straight into the biggest domino that just fell. Nick Herbig just signed a massive contract extension worth $100 million. Now on the surface, that sounds like great news, right? Lock up one of your young, talented pass rushers and secure the future of your defense. And yeah, it is good news for the organization. But here's the thing nobody's talking about yet. That contract just completely changed the calculus around another player on this roster, Alex Highsmith. Because the moment Pittsburgh guaranteed all that money to Herbig, they fundamentally altered Highsmith's value to this team. Not his talent, not his production, but his necessity. Think about it like this. Before the Herbig deal, the Steelers absolutely needed to keep Highsmith around because the depth behind TJ Watt wasn't proven at the NFL level. You had potential, you had upside, but you didn't have a guy who'd already signed a 9-figure contract and proven he belongs. Now you do. Herbig is locked in, he's not going anywhere, and suddenly, keeping Highsmith at his current price tag becomes a luxury decision instead of a necessity decision. And when you're a team trying to navigate one of the most complicated salary cap situations in the entire league, luxury decisions become trade opportunities real fast. And according to multiple reports coming out of Pittsburgh right now, that's exactly what's happening. 3 teams are already circling. 3 legitimate contenders who see Highsmith as the missing piece. They need to make a serious run. And the asking price? A 2nd-round pick. That's not a throwaway late-round selection. That's real draft capital that Omar could use to either address other holes on this roster or package into a bigger move down the line. Now let's talk about who these 3 teams are and why each of them makes a ton of sense. First up, Dallas. The Cowboys just traded away their star edge rusher to Green Bay, and they've got a massive hole on their defensive line right now. Dallas is built to win immediately. They've got an elite offense, they've got playmakers on defense, but losing that pass rush presence created a vulnerability that every team in the NFC is going to attack. Highsmith walking into Dallas and lining up opposite Rashan Gary, that's not just filling a hole, that's upgrading the entire defensive front and turning the Cowboys back into a legitimate Super Bowl threat overnight. Jerry Jones is not a patient man. He wants to win now, and he's got the resources to make a move like this happen if he decides it's worth it. Then you've got Detroit. The Lions have been building something special over the last couple of seasons. They've got an offense that can score with anybody. Their defense has improved dramatically. But if there's one area where they're still vulnerable, it's getting consistent pressure off the edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson is a monster, one of the best young pass rushers in the entire league. But if you're only getting pressure from one side, offenses adjust. They slide protection. They chip with running backs and tight ends. They take away your best player's impact. Highsmith on the other side? Now you've got a problem if you're an opposing offensive coordinator. You can't just focus all your attention on Hutchinson anymore. You've got 2 legitimate threats coming after your quarterback on every single passing down. Detroit knows their window is open right now, and adding a piece like Highsmith could be what pushes them over the top in the NFC. And then there's the dark horse, Green Bay. Now this one's interesting because the Packers just acquired a star pass rusher in a trade with Dallas, right? So why would they need Highsmith? Here's why. That player they just traded for is expected to miss significant time, possibly until mid-October, with an injury. That's a huge chunk of the season where Green Bay is going to be without one of their most important defensive pieces. Highsmith could come in and hold down that spot in the short term, keep the Packers competitive through the early part of the schedule. And then when that other guy comes back healthy, you're talking about one of the most dangerous pass-rushing duos in the entire NFC. Green Bay is not messing around. They're building a roster that can compete with Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Detroit. And Highsmith might be exactly the type of move that gets them there. So that's the Highsmith situation. 3 teams, real interest, a second-round pick on the table, and a decision that Omar Khan is going to have to make sooner rather than later. But as big as that story is, it's not even the most concerning thing happening in Pittsburgh right now. Because 4 words just came out of the mouth of the most connected Steelers reporter in the entire city, and those 4 words should have every single fan on high alert. Jerry Dulac. If you follow this team, you know that name. He's covered the Steelers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for decades. He's got sources inside the building that nobody else has. When Dulac says something, it's not speculation. It's not a hot take. It's information. And what he just said about Joey Porter Jr.'s contract extension is setting off alarm bells all over Steelers Nation. In a recent mailbag, Dulac was answering a question about Pittsburgh's contract situation, and he casually dropped this line. And wait till they sign Porter, if they sign him. If they sign him. 4 words. But those 4 words carry a weight that should make every fan paying attention stop and take notice, because that is not the language of someone who thinks this extension is a done deal. That's not the phrasing of a reporter who believes Porter's new contract is just a formality waiting to get finalized. That is the language of someone who has heard something from inside that organization that made him uncertain about whether this deal is actually going to happen. Now let me give you some context here. Pittsburgh has been moving through their off-season contract situations pretty smoothly up until this point. Nick Herbig got his extension done. Darnell Washington got his deal finished. No drama, no public back and forth, no reports of tension between the players' camp and the front office. Everything just got handled the way it's supposed to get handled, quietly and professionally. And because of that, most fans assumed Joey Porter Jr. was next in line and that his extension would follow the same pattern. Sign the deal, announce it, move on. But that's not what's happening. The tone around Porter's situation has completely shifted. And here's why this is so complicated for the Steelers. Porter is not asking to be paid like a good starting cornerback. He's asking to be paid like one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million per year in average annual value. We're talking $60 to $100 million in guaranteed money. Those are elite, top 5 cornerback numbers. And the problem for Pittsburgh is not whether Porter deserves that money. The problem is whether the salary cap structure allows them to commit to a deal that big right now without completely destroying their flexibility everywhere else. Because let's be real about the financial situation this team is in. The Steelers are already carrying massive contract weight on the defensive side of the ball. TJ Watt is owed a ton of money over the next several years. Jalen Ramsey still has money left on his deal. Cam Hayward's extension is still being worked out. And now you're trying to add Joey Porter Jr. to that list at $30 million per year? The math gets really difficult really fast. It's not that the Steelers don't want to pay Porter. It's that paying Porter at that number might mean they can't afford to keep other key pieces or make moves they need to make to stay competitive. And here's the thing. Porter has absolutely earned the right to have this conversation. Last season, he finished 10th in the entire league in coverage DVOA, according to ESPN's Aaron Schatz. That's not some subjective eye test evaluation. That's advanced metrics telling you he was one of the 10 most effective cornerbacks in coverage in the entire NFL. He started 41 games over 3 seasons. He consistently takes on the assignment of covering the opposing team's number 1 receiver. He's 26 years old, right in the middle of what should be his absolute prime years. Losing a player like that to free agency because you couldn't get a deal done would be a devastating blow to a defense that's supposed to be one of the best in the AFC. But Jerry Dulac doesn't just throw around phrases like, if they sign him, for no reason. When a reporter who's been around this team every single day for decades uses language like that, it's because he's hearing things. Maybe it's from agents. Maybe it's from people inside the front office. Maybe it's from other teams who think Porter might actually hit the open market. Whatever the source is, the uncertainty is real, and the clock is ticking. The longer this drags out, the more complicated it gets. Because once you get into training camp and the regular season without a deal done, the whole dynamic changes. Players start to feel undervalued, tension builds, and what should have been a straightforward extension turns into a distraction that affects the entire locker room. So that's where things stand with Joey Porter Jr. right now. No deal. Uncertainty from one of the most plugged-in reporters covering this franchise. And a front office that has to figure out how to navigate a salary cap that's already stretched thin while trying to keep one of their best young defensive players happy. It's a tough spot, and it's a situation that could go either way. Now let's shift gears for a second, because while all this contract drama is playing out, something else happened that every Steelers fan needs to hear. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever play this game, just went on a podcast and said something about Aaron Rodgers that puts everything Pittsburgh is doing right now into perspective. Brady appeared on the Stick to Football podcast, and he didn't hold back. He said flat out that there is no greater passer of the football than Aaron Rodgers. Not just right now, not just in his prime. In the history of the NFL, no greater passer. Let that sink in for a second. Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowl rings, 3 MVP awards, the guy who has every major passing record you can think of, just told the world that Aaron Rodgers is the most talented passer who has ever played this game. And he didn't stop there. He went on to describe the way the ball comes out of Rodgers' hand, the spin, the velocity, the accuracy, the touch. He said there are maybe 3 people in the entire history of football who could do what Rodgers does with a football. 3. That's it. That's the level of talent we're talking about. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, that's great, but what does that have to do with the Steelers? Well, let me connect the dots for you. Pittsburgh spent last season running an offense under Arthur Smith that was not designed to attack vertically down the field. It was a run-heavy, play-action-based system that prioritized ball control and limiting turnovers. And don't get me wrong, it worked to a certain extent. The Steelers were competitive. But that system did not maximize what Aaron Rodgers does better than any other quarterback on the planet. It didn't give him the opportunity to use that elite arm talent to stretch defenses and take over games the way he's capable of doing. This season is different. Mike McCarthy is now the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because McCarthy was Aaron Rodgers' head coach in Green Bay for 13 years. He built an entire offensive system around maximizing Rodgers' skill set. He knows exactly how to use him. He knows what plays Rodgers loves. He knows how to put him in positions to succeed. And now, for the first time in years, Rodgers is going to be back in an offense that's specifically designed to let him do what he does best. And here's the other thing. The weapons around Rodgers this season are better than anything he had last year. Michael Pittman Jr. gives him a big, reliable target on the outside who can win contested catches and move the chains. Jerry Jeudy adds another dimension to the receiving core with his speed and route running ability. George Pickens is still here, still one of the most talented young receivers in the league. The offensive line has been upgraded. The running game is still effective. This roster, top to bottom, is as complete as Pittsburgh has had in a long time. So when Tom Brady says that Aaron Rodgers can do things with a football that almost nobody in the history of this game has ever been able to do, that's not just a compliment. That's a reminder of exactly what this franchise has right now. That's a reminder of the opportunity that's sitting in front of them. Every difficult decision Omar Khan is wrestling with right now, the Joey Porter Jr. extension, the Alex Highsmith trade discussions, the roster cuts that are coming, all of it exists because Pittsburgh is trying to protect and maximize a championship window that's built around a quarterback who the greatest player of all time just called the most talented passer in NFL history. That changes everything. It changes the urgency. It changes the stakes. It changes the pressure that's on the front office to get these decisions right. Because when you have a player like that, you don't get to waste time. You don't get to wait and see how things develop. You go all in. You make the tough calls. You do whatever it takes to put the best possible roster around him and give yourself the best possible chance to win right now. And that brings us back to the Alex Highsmith situation. Because as much as fans might love Highsmith and appreciate everything he's done for this defense, if trading him for a second-round pick gives Pittsburgh the flexibility to sign Joey Porter Jr. or make another move that improves this roster, that's a call Omar has to seriously consider. The Steelers have publicly said they want to keep their edge rushers intact through 2026. And maybe that's what ends up happening. But the NFL doesn't run on what teams say publicly. It runs on leverage and timing and opportunity. Right now, Pittsburgh has leverage because 3 teams want Highsmith. The timing is right because the Herbig extension gave them the depth to absorb his loss. And the opportunity is there to use that trade capital to make this roster better in other areas. Now let's talk about one more roster battle that's quietly developing in the background. Robert Jennings, 7th-round pick out of Oklahoma, safety. And he just ran a 4.32 40-yard dash at the combine. That is elite speed. That's not just fast for a safety. That's fast for anybody at any position. And yet, Mark Kaboly, one of the most respected Steelers beat writers, just projected him off the 53-man roster in his way too early roster prediction. Here's Kaboly's reasoning. He's carrying just 3 safeties: Deshaun Elliott, Jaquan Brisker, and Sebastian Castro. And the logic is that Jalen Ramsey has the versatility to play safety when needed, which gives the Steelers enough flexibility at the position that a 4th safety becomes redundant. In Kaboly's view, that roster spot is better used elsewhere, and Jennings, as a 7th-round pick, is the odd man out. But here's where I want to push back a little bit. Because yes, Kaboly knows this team better than most people. But there's a counter-argument here that deserves to be heard. Jennings isn't just a 7th-round pick with good measurables. 4.32 speed on the back end of a defense changes what you can do schematically. It gives defensive coordinator Patrick Graham options that a slower safety just can't provide. It allows you to play single high coverage and still have the range to cover the entire field. It lets you be more aggressive in your blitz packages because you know you've got a guy in the back end who can recover if something breaks down. And let's talk about his production at Oklahoma. Over 4 seasons, Jennings racked up 178 combined tackles in 47 games. He forced 4 fumbles in a single season in 2024. Those aren't empty stats. That's a player who knows how to make plays. That's a player with instincts and ball skills and the kind of physical presence that shows up on tape. And on top of all that, you've got the elite speed. That's a pretty compelling package for a 7th-round pick. Now, I'm not saying he's a lock to make the roster. But I am saying that writing him off before training camp even starts might be premature. Because here's the thing about late-round picks with elite speed. They have a way of making plays when it matters and forcing coaches to find a spot for them. One big hit in a preseason game. One special teams stop that changes field position. One moment in practice where that 4.32 speed shows up and makes a play that nobody else on the field could make. That's all it takes to flip the narrative. The decision on whether Jennings makes this roster is going to come down to what happens in camp and in the preseason. But if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm paying attention to him. Because if he does make it, you're talking about adding another dimension to a defense that's already loaded with talent. And if he doesn't, it's not going to be because of a lack of ability. It's going to be because the roster was just too deep and the numbers didn't work out. So let's step back and look at the big picture here. What does all of this actually mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now? You've got a quarterback who Tom Brady just called the greatest passer in NFL history. That's the prize. That's what this entire organization is built around. And every single difficult decision that's happening right now, whether it's Joey Porter Jr.'s extension, whether it's trading Alex Highsmith, whether it's roster battles like the one Jennings is fighting, all of it exists because this franchise has a legitimate chance to do something special. The contract tensions are real. The salary cap complications are real. The tough decisions are unavoidable. But that's the price you pay when you're trying to compete at the highest level. The difference between a team that's just trying to make the playoffs and a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl is whether you're willing to make those hard calls when the moment demands it. And right now, Pittsburgh is in one of those moments. Omar has shown time and time again that he's willing to be aggressive when the situation calls for it. He's not afraid to make moves that other general managers might shy away from. He's not going to let sentiment or tradition get in the way of doing what's best for this roster. And that's exactly the kind of mentality you need when you're navigating a situation like this. Because the window is open right now. Aaron Rodgers is still playing at an elite level. The defense is loaded, the pieces are in place. But windows don't stay open forever. And if you're not willing to do whatever it takes to maximize that window while you have it, you're going to look back in a few years and wonder what could have been. This is one of those summers where everything matters. Every contract negotiation, every trade discussion, every roster decision, because the margin between a team that makes a deep playoff run and a team that falls short in the first round is razor thin. And the moves that get made over the next few months are going to determine which side of that line Pittsburgh ends up on. I've watched this franchise go through difficult summers before. The black and gold have always been defined not by whether things were easy, but by whether the people running the organization had the courage to step up and make the right decision when it mattered most. This is one of those times. The prize is sitting right there in front of them. The path to get there is filled with tough choices. But that's what separates good teams from great teams. That's what separates organizations that are content with being competitive from organizations that are committed to being champions. So as we head into training camp, as we watch these contract situations develop, as we see which players make the roster and which ones don't, remember what's at stake here. This isn't just about managing the salary cap or making smart roster moves. This is about giving a generational talent at the quarterback position the best possible chance to lead this franchise to a championship. And if that means making some uncomfortable decisions along the way, so be it. Because when you have the greatest passer in NFL history under center, you do whatever it takes. Steeler Nation, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think they get the Joey Porter Jr. extension done? Should they trade Alex Highsmith if the right offer comes in? And does Jennings make this roster? Let's hear your takes. This is your team. This is your community. And we're all in this together. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell because this story is just getting started, and you're not going to want to miss what happens next.